Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Jean Umberto. In this video, we are going to take a look at the concept of loops in programming, and we are going to pay particular attention to the for loop. So this is going to be a quick overview, but in one of the subsequent videos, I will talk about loops in general, and I will basically talk about other types of loops such as the while loop and the do while loop. But for now, let us focus on the for loop because we need it to iterate over our arrays. Okay, so what is a loop? Here is a scenario. A child asks you to count from 1 to 10. What would you do? Well, we know it sounds very easy. We're just gonna start counting and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Very fast, very quick, and sounds very easy. Well, because it is easy. But take a moment to reflect on what you have just done. You have done about 3 things. So you've gone through a process which involved about 3 steps. The first was to start the count. And you had to start from 1 because that was what the child asked for. The second was you had to add a number. Every time you gave one number, you added 1 to that number, then you gave the updated value. For example, you started at 1 and then you moved up to 2, that was 1 plus 1, and then you moved to 3, which was 2 plus 1, and then you went to 4, which is now 3 plus 1, and so you kept adding 1 until you got to 10. And when you got to 10, what did you do? You just stopped. You stopped because the child asked you to start from 1 and stop at 10. So you see, you have gone through a process of about 3 steps. So the first was starting, the second was adding, what we are going to be referring to as incrementing, and the last was, of course, to stop, to kind of finish. Okay, so in programming, we also do almost the same thing, and we use a loop to do exactly what we have just said. So if we need to represent this problem in the program, we are going to be using terms such as initializing, initializing, which basically means starting somewhere, and then we'll be talking about incrementing, that will be adding, and then we'll be talking about kind of stopping or exiting. So in programming, we have what is known as unary operators, and there are about 2 unary operators that I will talk about here. One is the increment operator, which is represented by a plus plus symbol. So you have double plus symbols, which basically means incrementing. So when you are incrementing, for example, you want to add 1 every time you get a new number and add 1 to it again and again. In programming, we simply say that you are incrementing the value by 1. So that is the double plus operator. And we also have a decrement operator. Imagine if you had to count down from 10 down to 1. So you would basically say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, going down by 1 every time. So that is basically decrementing, and we represent that with the unary operator known as the decrement operator, which is the minus symbol. So what is a loop then? A loop is basically a process by which an instruction can be executed again and again, so that is over and over again until a certain condition is reached. And in our case here, we kept counting, we kept adding 1 to the new value until we had to stop somewhere. When we got to 10, we realized the child did not ask for 11, because now if we gave the value 11, we are out of the condition, so we had to stop exactly at 10. So that is basically the meaning of a loop. So Loops are part of what is known as iteration statement, and like I said earlier, I will have a moment to talk about other types of loops later, for example the while loop and the do while loop. But for now, let's keep our focus on the for loop because we need them to iterate over an array. So how does a for loop look like? Well, the very first thing I want to mention is that a basic for loop has three main parts, and these are of course expressions. Now all these parts are separated by a semicolon. So this is how it looks like. You can see right inside this pair of parent here. So we started with the for statement, and for is of course a reserved keyword. So we started with the for statement, that is for, and we open a parent and we close it here, and within the parent, this basically look like function parameters, but within the parent, what we have done is we have declared the three expressions, and the first one was the initialization. So this is the first part of the loop, that is the initialization expression, and here we're saying we are going to start at 1. So we're saying var I, that is a variable we're creating there, var I is 1. So we are going to start at 1. So that is what is known as the initialization expression, or the initialization part of the for loop. Now there's a semicolon separating that to the second part of the loop, and that is now the condition part. This is where we are testing. This is where we are testing if I is going to return true. And here we're saying as long as I is a value or a number less than 11, and of course if you start from 1 you go up to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all these numbers are less than 11, it means they are going to return true. But when we get to 10, because 10 is the biggest number in this result set, which is less than 11, 11 is not less than 11, so 11 is not going to be included in our result set. So the loop is going to stop as soon as it gets to 10. So it's going to print out, it's going to give us 10, and when it tries to go to 11, well, it's going to realize that, whoa, 11 is not less than 11, and the loop will simply exit. So that condition has been reached. So as soon as the loop returns false, okay, when it gets to 11, that's already a false value, the loop is just going to exit. And the last part of a for loop is of course that increment expression or update expression. So that is where we're saying I++, which basically means add 1 every time, add 1 to the new value every time, and that is basically what we mean by I++, add 1 every time. Okay, so now inside the body of the for loop here, every time our condition return true, we can use that value here. Okay, so we can do whatever we want to do with that particular value. We can print it out, we can send it to a database or to a file, or whatever you want to do really with that value coming back. In the next video, we are going to take a moment practicing the for loop, and we are going to use the very same example of a child request to count from 1 to 10. At the end of that video, I hope you'll be able to produce your own for loops, and that will be basic for loops that can print out a range of numbers from one number, that could be any X number, to any Y number. Thank you for watching.